Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to the geography of fruit. I can't say geography today. Geography. I've done this intro like 5 times and I've failed to say it. The geography of fruit. And in terms of fruit, it's a very tropical. I feel like a lot of fruit that you get is imported, especially in the UK. It's a lot of it's imported from tropical countries or warmer countries. Because I guess, especially because the UK is cold 8-9 months of the year, it can't really grow in this country. But I don't really know the reasoning behind like fruit and why it. I guess it relies on the sun because it's on the tree, like not on trees. It's above ground, and because it's above ground, I guess it relies on the sun. I'm gonna say photosynthesis, but I mean I assume it does because a lot of fruit come from like flowers initially, right? But like vegetables, for example, they grow in the ground. So I mean, I guess they rely more so on the actual soil and like stuff like that. And fruit needs the sun, but I don't know the reasoning behind it. I don't know why the actual why fruit rely on that so much. I don't know. But we're gonna check this out and see the geography of fruit because I'm assuming most of it is gonna be in warmer countries. There's one fruit that I'd say maybe comes from the UK, which I'm sure no fruit comes from the UK like initially. Maybe like an apple, because apples I feel like can grow in more like temperate environments, like colder, not necessarily cold, but just not as hot. They don't have to have extreme heat. Whereas like pineapples, coconuts, just other fruits really, I assume rely on warmer conditions. But anyway, we're gonna check this out. Hopefully, going to enjoy, and let's jump into this video.
Fruits are pretty great. For early humans,
These are some shiny apples.
they served as delicious, calorie-rich foods that could be easily collected and eaten without
Actually, tomatoes, I guess, maybe. Tomatoes grow in the UK quite easily as well.
any preparation. It's even been suggested that the ability to distinguish between red and green was evolutionarily selected for so that we could find fruits and tell if they were ripe or not. Of course, today, finding any fruit you want is as easy as going to the grocery
Blackberries. Oh, definitely blackberries. They grow in the UK. Like they grow as like weeds. They spread so easily. And like they used to always grow in my garden. That's like the only fruit that used to grow consistently good. There we go. Blackberries. They're the country of the country. They're the fruit of the UK.
store and finding the right aisle. Many of us might not even realize the fruits we eat
Kiwi.
might not come from the same country we live in or even the same continent. In fact, many of our favorite fruits originated in entirely different landscapes and climates and today are grown thousands of miles away from our grocery stores. So let's take a look at the geography of our fruits. Starting us off, we have apples, which hail from the Central Asia region, around where the 3 countries of China, Kazakhstan, and Kyrgyzstan meet. Its wild ancestor, Malus sieversii, is still found throughout this region, and China remains the #1 world producer, accounting for 48% of the global apple production. The earliest records of apricots reach back to ancient Armenia. Its scientific name is literally Prunus armeniaca. Whether it originated here is disputed, with some suggesting India and China, but its theoretical range includes all of these places, and today Uzbekistan is the top producer. Avocados, sometimes called alligator pears, originated in south-central Mexico, specifically in Tehuacan Valley. Evidence shows locals have been eating the ancestors of avocados for up to 10,000 years, and to this day, Mexico remains the #1 producer in the world. Bananas and plantains, which are technically berries, got their beginnings in
What? I would not have guessed here. I would have guessed maybe like the Caribbean or something. I mean, I don't actually know to be, or like Brazil, something like that. Not flipping Southern Asia.
Malaya. The earliest record of their domestication likely comes from New Guinea from up to 10,000 years ago as well. Despite this, India holds the title as the top producer, with China close behind. The genus blueberries belong to, Vaccinium, occur all around the North Pole, but the ones we eat today come from North America, mostly the north and eastern parts of the United States and south-central Canada. So it's no surprise that the United States leads global blueberry production, with Canada coming in second.
Do love a blueberry, to be fair. I do love a blueberry.
Okay, so cantaloupes are named after the town
This is one of the fruits that I've never had. Cantaloupes. Not once in my life have I tried this.
Lupo di Sabina in Italy, where cantaloupes definitely did not originate from, but cantaloupe literally translates to howling wolf, and I just think that's cool. As for where they came from, no one really seems to know. Some say Persia, some say Afghanistan, and others say Armenia. Roughly this area is agreed upon though, but today it's China that produces 51% of all cantaloupes.
Jeez.
Cherries, on the other hand, are native to Italy, and all of Central Europe for that matter. Funnily enough, the name cherry comes from outside of Europe, from the Norman cherries.
Oh yeah, I remember the park that I used to go to. There's like quite a few cherry trees, and you could just pick them. That's just brought back a memory for me. Yeah, cherries do grow quite easily here, which is weird because again, I'd assume cherries are quite like there's fruits that would need a lot of sun, but maybe not.
From the Latin cherasum, and from the ancient Greek region Kerasus, located in Turkey, where cherries were first imported into Europe from, and where they still do, as Turkey remains the #1 producer of sweet cherries in the world. Clementines are a fairly new fruit, which arose as a hybrid between a mandarin orange and a sweet orange in the
Oh, it's just a type of orange.
late 1800s. This spontaneous cross was actually observed by humans, as it literally happened in the garden of an orphanage in the city of Meserdin, Algeria. The orphanage was headed by a Frenchman named Marie Clement Rodier, which is where the name clementine comes from. China, again, is the leading world producer today. Coconuts occur throughout tropical coastal regions. Since they float in water, they're easily and quickly dispersed across the oceans. Their huge range means they were actually domesticated on 2 entirely separate occasions, once in the Indian Ocean in Sri Lanka and the Maldives, and once in the Pacific in the Philippines and Indonesia. Today, Indonesia is still the greatest producer. The first people to harvest cranberries were Native Americans. Tribes like the Narragansett would use them both as food and dyes in the New England region, and recipes for cranberry sauce were seen in pilgrim cookbooks as early as 1663. So it's no surprise that the US remains the top producer. Dates are some of the oldest cultivated fruits.
See, they're the only fruit that I'm not really the biggest fan of. And I feel like that's an unpopular opinion because I feel like these people love dates. I don't like raisins. I love grapes. I don't like raisins. And dates, I just feel like they're big raisins. But everyone else loves them. So I'm sorry. Sorry if I've offended you.
Fruits in the world, first found in the ancient civilizations of Mesopotamia and Egypt, thought to have originated in Iraq around 50 million years ago, while the earliest evidence of cultivation comes from an archaeological site in Pakistan from around 7000 BCE. Today, Egypt is the world's biggest producer. The fig has much the same range as the date palm, but is even older, with evidence of its cultivation and consumption reaching back 11,000 years, predating wheat and rye. Findings in the ancient village of Gilgal in the Jordan Valley place the domestication of figs around 9400 BCE, suggesting figs may have been the very first example of humans practicing agriculture 1,000 years before the next crops were cultivated. Their biggest producer today, Turkey, isn't too far away either. Grapefruits, which are gross and don't taste anything like grapes, actually came from another cross between two.
They aren't great, are they? They're very sour. These are the really sour ones, right? They're really sour. Even if you got a good one, you're not gonna have. If you like sweet fruits and you get a good grapefruit, you're not gonna like it because it's just very sour. I don't get them often enough to really say, but I've had grapefruit drinks before and it wasn't good. It was very bitter.
Two citrus fruits, this time the Jamaican sweet orange and the Indonesian pomelo. The cross occurred on the island of Barbados in the Caribbean and were originally called shaddocks. Despite its origin on the tropical island, however, today, once again, China is the #1 producer, accounting for 48% of all production. Geez, China, relax. Grapes, on the other hand, do taste good and come from the Middle East, where human agriculture first got started. The growing of grapes also led to the domestication of yeast, which very quickly led to the discovery and subsequent abuse of alcohol. It's actually unclear what came first, the domestication of grapes or the craft of winemaking, but both occurred around 10,000 years ago in Georgia and Armenia. I'm sure you can guess the overall leader in grape production, but in terms of grapes used especially for wine, Spain leads the world. Guavas are a lesser known fruit, but they're pretty amazing.
Again, I've never tried guavas before. These fruits don't really get in the UK as much, so I don't have any clue what it would taste like. I assume it's probably quite sweet, but I don't know.
So I decided to include them. They originally come from southern Mexico and the rest of Central America. Papayas have about the same exact range as well, but today, India leads the way in production of both of these fruits. Honeydew is delicious, and anyone who thinks differently can...
Not a fan. I love fruit, and now I feel like I'm coming across that I don't really like fruit. I just find these quite plain. I'm sorry.
Fight me in the comments section. It came from northern Africa, particularly Algeria, but yeah, China is now the top producer. This one might hurt a little, but
China,
kiwis
man.
are from China.
I love a kiwi. And it's not from New Zealand? What? The fact that they come from China, though, I wouldn't have expected that. But they are cool. If you get a good kiwi, man, something else.
Not New Zealand. Specific.
And I eat the skin as well. I don't care what you say. I just chop the ends off. The skin's fine. I didn't used to eat it as a kid, but you know what? It doesn't really cause me any problems. Just clean it and I'm a happy man.
From around the Yangtze River Valley. They weren't cultivated much in China, however, and it was only in the 20th century that kiwis were brought to New Zealand and eventually became a commercial crop there. Then, these were exported to the US and UK, and that's why they're associated with New Zealand now. Since then, however, who else but China came in and now contributes 55% of the worldwide production, followed by Italy and then New Zealand. The kumquat, if you don't know, looks like an orange but is about the size of an olive. Like so many other fruits, they come from the Southeast Asian region. Lemons are also thought to have originated here, but more specifically in the state of Assam in eastern India, and these are actually also a hybrid between two older fruits, the bitter orange and the citron, both of which originated around this area as well. And to this day, India leads the world in production. Limes, well, are mostly the same, but actually no one can really agree on what a lime is. There are several different things people call limes, which are all different combinations of citron, mandarin oranges, and pomelo, all of which come from Southeast Asia. And so does the mango for that matter. Olives got their
Mango, man, what a fruit. Olives, I mean, these are a few fruit. I don't consider them a fruit, I'm sorry. And not for me. I'm going to guess Italy.
start, of course, in Italy, but quickly spread throughout the Mediterranean region. As early as 5,000 years ago, olives were being grown commercially on the Greek island of Crete, but today Spain is the biggest commercial supplier. Passion fruit is a weird name, but they're the first fruit I've mentioned exclusively from South America, originating from southern Brazil through Paraguay into northern Argentina. Peaches again come from northwest China, between the Tarim
China's going crazy. Flipping out.
Basin and the Kunlun Mountains. And wow, no way, China also produces 58% of the world's peaches. The pear originated nearby in western China, in the foothills of the Tianshan Mountains, pretty close to where apples formed, if you remember. And yeah, China produces the most of these too.
Wow.
Pineapples are thought to have started in southern Brazil and Paraguay, just like the passion fruit, except way better. Costa Rica actually leads the world in pineapple production, so good for them, honestly. Plums were also one of the earliest domesticated fruits, originating in Eastern Europe and the Caucasus Mountains. But today, China wins again with 55% of the world plum production. Pomegranates originally came from Iran, and they're the only fruit I found with an entire symbolism section on its Wikipedia page, so it's safe to say it was pretty important to many early civilizations. And today, Iran remains the #1 producer of pomegranates. Raspberries are hard to pin down.
I love raspberries, but the thing is, you often get pretty bad raspberries. If you get a good raspberry, it's nice, but it's very rare you get like the best, the perfect raspberry. Usually they're sour or the packs squish them all. So, I mean, if you get a good raspberry, it's nice, but it's rare. So I just tend to get them occasionally, but I'm like, you know what, I can't be bothered to deal with it being not nice half the time. So I just leave it out. But is it Europe? I wouldn't have thought it'd be in Europe.
They propagated throughout Europe very quickly, but it's thought they originated somewhere in Turkey. Despite this, today, Russia is the biggest producer. The modern strawberry is another example of a recent hybrid crossing between the North American Fragaria virginiana and the Chilean Fragaria chiloensis. The two species were first crossed in Brittany, France in the 1750s, although today, the US is the greatest producer of them. Tomatoes are...
I think strawberries and bananas are the fruits that I eat more than anything. I love like strawberries. When you get a good strawberry, it's incredible. Bananas, I mean, it's just bananas are the most reliable fruit, I feel like, unless like you've got a really bruised banana. But bananas are just good all the time, which is you just wait until it's ripe and it's always going to be good. So that's why I tend to get them, because I mean they're good for you, and the consistency of how good they're going to be, they always taste the same. Strawberries, you can get bad strawberries. Raspberries, you can get bad. Oranges, oh my days, don't get me started. A good orange is so good, but I'll get a pack, and half the time the oranges will be so bad. I'm just like, you know, I'm giving up with oranges. Apples are pretty reliable. But yeah, bananas, it's not even been mentioned yet, but bananas are the most reliable fruit, and they're good. They're not my favourite fruit, but they're just reliable, so it's just like, you know what?
Definitely fruits, and despite being closely associated with Italian foods like pasta or pizza, they came from thousands of miles away in the Andes Mountains. There are many myths about how the tomato got to Europe. Some suggest it was Columbus who first took them back across the Atlantic. Others say it was Hernan Cortez. And then there's another story about 2 Spanish Jesuits in Mexico, but basically there's no consensus. China wins again in terms of production, however, with 31% of the world production.
Wild.
Lastly, we have watermelon, which
This is up there with one of my favourite fruits as well. I love a watermelon. But again, you can get bad watermelons. Maybe it's just the UK, you just tend to get bad fruits a lot. I mean, I'd say 80% of the time I'll get a good watermelon, but sometimes it will just not be very nice. But a good watermelon, yeah, it's up there with the best fruits, to be fair.
started off looking like this in East Africa, right around Ethiopia. Then, roughly 5,000 years ago, the Egyptians began cultivating the fruit, altering it until we got what we now know as watermelon. But unsurprisingly, China today accounts for 68% of worldwide watermelon production. That's all the fruits I'm going to include. I tried to get the most popular ones, but I definitely left out some of the more regionally important ones. I think the biggest takeaways would be that Southeast Asia and the Middle East in particular are where a lot of our favorite fruits
Asia, thank you. Just every country in Asia, thank you. Or every region in Asia, thank you for your service. You've done the world proud, and you've created some of the best fruits. Humans originated in East Africa, but now you guessed right, the top producer is China. There we go. I didn't really know this stuff before. I just assumed it would be in warmer conditions, and as we saw, most of them came from warmer areas. But that's pretty much it. Until next time, like, subscribe, and peace.